In Matthew 24, Jesus tells us to watch for a thing called the abomination of desolation. When that stands in the holy place, Jesus said, those in Judea will flee into the mountains, and then shall be great tribulation. This great tribulation is also called the affliction in Mark 13, which gives the same timeline. We're told immediately after that tribulation or affliction, the stars will fall, the sun and moon will go dark, and the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. Jesus told us in order to understand what the abomination of desolation is, we should refer to the book of Daniel. Daniel 12 tells us from the time the daily is taken away until the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. In the Bible, days can represent years, so 1,290 days can also represent 1,290 years. Daniel 12 also gives us another piece to this puzzle. It says there will be a time of trouble, and that time of trouble will last for a time times and a half. That time times and half a time is mentioned in 2 more places in the Bible. In Daniel 7, it says the saints will be given into the hand of the little horn for a time times and the dividing of a time. In Revelation 12, it says the woman will fly into the wilderness where she is nourished for a time times and half a time. And during that time, the dragon will make war with the remnant. But Revelation 12 adds more details to this. It says before that time times and half a time, the dragon will be cast to the earth. And before the dragon is cast to the earth, the woman will flee into the wilderness for 1,260 days. It also adds that before the woman flees for 1,260 days, a sign will appear in heaven. Revelation 11 also talks about the 1,260 days. It says 2 witnesses will walk the earth for 1,260 days. During that time, it adds that the waters, which we're told represent people, will be turned to blood. There will be no rain, which we're told represents the fire and brimstone from heaven, and fire will come on the face of those who offend the 2 witnesses, which may represent those who were burned at the stake during the Holy Roman Empire. In addition, Revelation 11 adds that the multitude will walk the holy city, which we're told is in heaven, for 42 months, and the witnesses will be killed by the beast at the end of the 1,260 days and lie unburied for 3.5 days. 3.5 days can also represent 3.5 years, and 3.5 years is literally equal to 42 months. The 42 months are also mentioned in Revelation 13, which tells us the beast will be given the power to continue for 42 months. Daniel 7 already explained that the beast's lives will be prolonged for a season and a time after the burning stone hits. That indicates that the season and the time overlap with the time, times, and half a time. These 3 time periods, the 1,260 days, the time, times, and half a time, and the 42 months, are only found in 5 chapters of the Bible: Daniel 7, Daniel 12, and Revelation 11, 12, and 13. Therefore, as we've discussed in previous videos, we're given a very clear timeline in the Bible with regards to the tribulation period, the falling of the stars or a meteorite, the rescue, and the final time of trouble. First, the taking away of the daily, followed by a 1,290-day period, which ends at the setting up of the abomination of desolation. Then a specific sign in heaven appears, and those in Judea flee into the wilderness or mountains. That fleeing is followed by a 1,260-day or year period, which is the Great Tribulation or affliction, when the 2 false witnesses that persecuted Jesus walk the earth teaching their false version of the gospel and kill with fire the people who disagree with them. We're told immediately after that Great Tribulation or affliction, the stars will fall, and that starts the final time of trouble, the time, times, and half a time, which is equal to 3.5 years, otherwise known as 42 months. During that final time of trouble, the witnesses will be killed, the beast will continue, the dragon will make war with the remnant, and the saints will be in the hand of the little horn. But the timeline is also very clear that the woman, who represents a multitude of all tribes and nations that cannot be counted during that final time of trouble, will be walking the holy city in heaven. Some doctrines hold that the abomination of desolation will stand where it ought not in the exact middle of Daniel's 7-year period, which marks the final tribulation. But we've proven that to be false. The popular Christian doctrine does not fit what Scripture tells us for many reasons that we've discussed in previous videos, but I want to point out one more flaw in that doctrine. Jesus said we cannot know the day or the hour that the Son of Man will appear. That refers to the end of the 1260 days of tribulation after those in Judea flee to the mountains. If we cannot know the day that represents the end of the 1260 days, then the 1260 days must represent years. If the popular Christian timeline were correct, then it would be easy for anyone to count 1260 days after the abomination of desolation stands in the holy place. But Jesus told us we cannot know the day, and he was not referring to days as years when he said that. We know he was referring to literal 24-hour days because he added that we also cannot know the hour. In other words, Jesus was making it clear that the 1260 days do not represent 24-hour days, they represent 1260 years. Because again, he told us we cannot calculate the day or the hour that the 1260-day tribulation ends on. And again, it would be possible to calculate the day if the popular Christian doctrine was correct. So that is yet another reason why we know the popular Christian doctrine is false. The true timeline has been proven by the actual fulfillments of the Scriptures, and it shows us that the 1260 days represent 1260 years. So although the heavenly sign occurred in 2012, the 1260-day period after that was not significant because Jesus told us we will not know the day. That means we should not find any significance in counting 1260 days after either the sign or the abomination of desolation that occurred in 2012, because the 1260 days in the prophecy represent years. Jesus told us it is not possible to calculate to the actual 24-hour day that the meteorite will hit, but it may be possible to calculate to the year. And the year 2016 represents the 1260th year from what some scholars deem as the start of the Holy Roman Empire. 2016 also appears to be the 7th year of Daniel's week. In addition, 2016 is within the window representing the end of one generation from the budding of the fig tree. Because again, one generation can equal either 67.21 years, 70 years, 80 years, or 100 years according to the Bible. We entered that possible end of the generation in the fall of 2015, and we will exit that possible end of the generation in 2048. Although, according to the recent fulfillments, the end of the 70 Shabuah from the commandment to restore will be completed earlier than that by 2024. But 2016 is also the 70th year that those in Judea have been serving Babylon sitting on the 8th king. And finally, the first half of 2016 is exactly 3.5 years prior to what appears to be the end of the 400-year affliction. This makes 2016 the biggest watch year yet, and the spring season especially. For more information on any of this, please watch the playlist Bible's Countdown to the Meteorite and Rescue linked here and below this video on YouTube. Thank you to those who make this work possible. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you next week.